Hi there, my name is Tamara, and I'm here today to share my testimony of how Jesus brought me out of darkness, pure darkness, and into his marvelous light. I'm very nervous, so if I stutter and stumble, you know why. I have wanted to share my testimony since the moment I got saved, but it never really seemed like the time was right. And over the past, I would say 4 days, I've been feeling like the Lord has been telling me that now is the time. So before I start, I want to read something that the Lord gave me yesterday when I was in prayer. It's Psalm 40, verses 1 through 3. It says, I waited patient. Okay. It says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard my cry. He also brought me up out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock, and established my steps. He has put a new song in my mouth, praise to our God. Many will see it and fear, and will trust in the Lord. All right, this is my story. So, I wasn't really raised with any sort of religion or any sort of spirituality. My parents kind of never really talked about it in the home. I knew that my dad's brothers and sisters and his parents were believers, but it didn't really appeal to me. So I just kind of grew up doing my own thing. When I was 17, my mom bought me the book called The Secret, which is about the law of attraction, and it really, really resonated with me. And I felt like this was something that just made sense to me. So I began the process of manifesting and learning how to manifest, and I saw that it worked. So when I was a sophomore in college, my grandfather, the one that is a believer, was diagnosed with lymphoma. And I remember sitting in the hospital room and the doctor coming in and telling all of us that my granddad had cancer. And like everybody was like still, everybody was calm and relaxed. And I was looking at my grandma and my aunts and uncles like, are you insane? I just ran out of the room and ran to the bathroom and I started crying. And my grandma came to me and she said that, no matter what, their faith is in Jesus to bring healing to him, and that, it's in his will. And I did not understand like what she was talking about, but I was just like, okay. And then fast forward, I transferred my junior year to a university. And I remember when I was in college, I was a typical college student. I was drinking and partying and all that stuff, but I had I had a big focus. I wanted to go to grad school, and so I was partying, but I was also focused. I was a very focused student. But I also, I don't really remember how this came about. I know that one of my best friends was a believer, and so I went to church with him sometimes. And then I found a church that I liked that I went to sometimes, and I would take my friends. But like when I was going, I think that at that time, um, I didn't truly believe in my heart. But I liked to go, and I liked the music part of it, honestly. Fast forward to, I would say, a week before I graduated from college. I remember laying in my bed and thinking about everything that I was learning in church and thinking about everything that I learned through the law of attraction and feeling confused. And I never forget this. It was like 3 in the morning, and I remember like feeling like you know what, like everything is God, and maybe like this Christian God, maybe Jesus is not like the only God. I just remember feeling like that and remembering that I was manifesting things on my own, and I just felt very confused, and I started feeling like in my heart I was feeling like the universe is God. And so I called my friend, and I remember talking to him about it. I can't remember what we said, but I do remember feeling like I understand now. Like I felt like I understand, like the universe is God. Moving on through my life, I graduated from college. Then I went to grad school. Graduated from grad school. I did very well there too. But it was the same thing. I was partying. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't, really believing anything. I was just kind of like doing me, doing whatever. And then after I graduated from grad school, I worked for about 5 months after feeling just kind of like tired, you know, and wanting a break from working so hard. So I moved to Atlanta with my friend that I was telling you guys about that was a believer in college. And I lived with him for about 5 months. I couldn't find a job in my field. I had a bachelor's and a master's degree and a license. And I could not find a job in my field. And I was like on the couch of my friend's house for 5 months. I was feeling like, okay, what are you doing here? I was partying nonstop. And I just kind of felt like, okay, I need to like do something. I went to a restaurant and I was applying for a job as like a hostess or a waitress or something like that. And I already felt so low for doing that. I just felt like I have 2 degrees. Like, why am I even doing this? But I needed to work and I needed to make money so that I could move out of my friend's house. I was sitting there filling out my application, and this man came up to me and he was telling me that he was the founder and CEO of this billion-dollar company. And, he was wondering about my background and he was wondering why I was applying at a restaurant. And he asked me to go to dinner with him. And I think I was a little naive, but I agreed. And later that night, we went to dinner, and he basically told me, or he asked me if I would be like his sugar baby. And I didn't know what that was, but he laid out all these terms, how much he would give me, how many times I would see him. And I just remember feeling disgusted and offended that he would even ask me that. And so afterwards, I took it to my friends, and they were like, girl, you should do it, you should do it, you should do it. And I was like, you're out of your mind. And they were like, but every girl in Atlanta wants this, like, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. You're insane. So then fast forward a couple more months, still no job, still on the couch at my friend's house. And I'm like, what am I doing? So I ended up calling that guy, and I said, hey, like, can you maybe offer me a job, or do you know anybody that could give me a job? And he just kind of was like, no, but the offer is still on the table. So I took it, and I lived that life for about 6 months. I didn't work, and I was just meeting up with this man, and I was having sex with him for money. It made me feel terrible. I remember like gagging. I remember feeling nauseous. I remember my spirit, like something in my spirit telling me that this is wrong, but I just kept going along with it. I remember crying a lot. I remember feeling so low and unworthy, and feeling like I couldn't do anything else because I had gotten so used to just doing absolutely nothing. I fell into this cycle of doing nothing and not working and just partying and going to concerts and drinking and just doing whatever I want. So it just, the more I stayed in it, the harder it felt in my mind that I could ever leave it. One of the last times I ever saw that man was on a trip. We went to Cuba it was me, him, a bunch of people. Being alone with him felt shameful when him and I would go on trips together. But being around other people made me feel a deeper sense of shame. I couldn't hide it, I couldn't pretend. It was all out in the open. Here I am, a 20, I think I was 24, 23, 24, a 24-year-old girl, and this old dude. Obvious what's going on. I didn't feel like the people judged us, but like I had lied to everybody around me about how I was getting my money and how I was, I even lied about like a career. I just lied about everything, but it was just out in the open. I couldn't lie about it anymore. So I remember I was in Cuba and I was in the shower, and I remember falling to my knees and just crying out to God. And I just didn't know where that came from, because I was so far from God. I didn't even really believe in God, I guess. I just believed in whatever. But something in my spirit just cried out to God. And that was, I believe, one of the last times I ever saw him. The next trip we were supposed to go on was to go to Thailand. And I decided that I didn't want anything to do with him anymore. I didn't want anything to do with that lifestyle. So I just told him I wasn't going. I had a boyfriend during that time, and he started taking care of me financially. And I was feeling so empty and so lost. And I remember that experience that I had a couple months prior, calling out to God, and I just wanted God. So I started doing more research in what resonated more with me, which was a manifesting. And so I came across some people on YouTube, Infinite Waters, and his name is Ralph Smart, Teal Swan, Victor Odo, who else? People like that. Excuse me, these spiritual people that started teaching me about this form of New Age spirituality, including crystals, manifestation, chakras, yoga, sage, tarot cards, channeling. What else, Lord? Help me remember. Meditation, auras, things like that. You know what I'm getting at. I would spend hours upon hours upon hours upon days upon weeks upon months. I'm not even kidding you. I would just be so focused on study. I would be reading, I'd be watching videos, I would be practicing meditating and like emptying my mind. I wanted to experience God. I wanted to be this light worker. I wanted to be a servant of God. And I believed in my mind that that was the way to do it. What ended up happening to me after months of this was I started to spiral out of control. I drank every day. I was an alcoholic for sure, with no doubt in my mind. I was smoking a pack of cigarettes every 2 days, 3 days. My mind was always racing and going. I felt like a failure. I felt like nothing. I was angry. I would like scream at, I had a friend at the time that I was kind of seeing. I would call him and just scream at him and cry. I would sleep like for hours. And some of the teachings, they always teach you that, you're working on your shadow self and that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So it kept getting worse and worse, and I believed, I'm working my way for things to get better. So as things got worse, I still had this little bit of hope that I'm getting closer to enlightenment or whatever. I don't even know. I remember wanting to kill myself, and I didn't want to die, but I just like felt like I had to. And so I called my mom, and she kind of like calmed me down a little bit. And then I went to sleep. And then the next day, one of my friends from college, the one I told you guys about that I called him that night when I was in college, about to graduate and I was like thinking about like the universe and God and feeling confused, that same friend, he called me and he said the Lord told me, to call you. And I was like, what? And so, and at this point, it had been years since we've seen each other or spoken. And so we just talked for a couple hours. I don't really remember what we talked about, but we reconnected. I was still having trouble and I was just ready to leave Atlanta. I decided that I was leaving Atlanta. I had like $10,000 worth of furniture. I had all this stuff. I didn't care nothing about it. I was like, get me out of here. I donated most of my stuff. I subleased off my apartment. I call him a friend, but I didn't know this kid, honestly. This guy called me and said, hey, I'm moving to Hawaii and there's this opportunity that you should jump on. You can make some money. And I was looking for an out anyway, so I just didn't even care. I knew in my mind that it was a scheme, a scam. It didn't make no sense. But I was just like, whatever, I'm out of here. I moved like a couple weeks later. I don't know. When I moved to Hawaii, that's when things really, really, really started getting out of control, terrible for me. I didn't have any structure. I was living with people that I didn't know, but I felt like we all were. What do we used to call each other? Like we were like a soul family, like we were like a tribe, because we believed in numerology and horoscopes, and we would talk about that stuff for hours and hours, and like we would talk about like ourselves as if we were gods. We would like cackle and laugh and talk about people and like not talk about them, but like look at them, like look at these peasants, like no joke, like we believed that we were better, like 100% we believed that we were better than everybody. We smoked weed every day, every single day. Like and at this point I had smoked weed like in high school a little bit and like in college a little bit, but like I was smoking every single day, like bong rips every single day. And I was doing that. I was talking to them about everything. I was continuing my study about like manifestation and all that stuff. And I was just like feeling like I'm on top of the world. I was loving my life. I was feeling like I was like healing. And I was like out in Hawaii. I was having a great time. But there was this other side of it that was so dark, so demented, twisted. It was probably the worst time of my life. Demons would manifest all the time. I didn't even know what was going, like I knew that like I would talk to somebody and a demon would manifest and I knew it wasn't that person anymore, but like I didn't have the spirit of God at that time, so I didn't fully understand what was going on. Demons would like follow me. They would come like in animals and follow me. I started to learn more about the occult. People were like seeking me out and initiating me, teaching me about sorcery and witchcraft. I felt myself rising in power, what I thought. I would pray to, I don't know who I was praying to, probably demons, probably Satan. And I would empty my mind out completely. I would empty it completely, that it was nothing. And I would try to channel, and I would have a notebook and I would write what was coming to my mind. And then I would come back into myself and look at it, and like the writing even looked like evil. Like it was just like, but at the time, like, and the only reason why I know this is because I've looked at this like later on. I've thrown it away since, but it even looked like, wasn't even my handwriting. People were telling me that I was a Pleiadian. I believed that I was special and that I was a god. People saw demons on me. This one guy told me that he saw like the devil. Like he said he looked at me and he saw the devil. And I was afraid all the time because I kept telling myself, I'm working on things. Things are getting better. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. Things are going to get better. And it was weird. Like half of the time was bliss. I was like rock climbing and swimming in the ocean and like, I was having a great time. I was meeting people. And then the other half of the time it was like terror and pain, and I didn't understand. Like it just kept getting worse. When I would light sage and let the sage burn and practice tarot, I could feel demons in the room, but I didn't know what they were. Like I felt them in the room. And one of the, like some of the few times that, some of the last times that I've ever done tarot, like it was a handful of times in a row, I kept getting these cards like signifying death, 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 death. And I would just cry. Like the days just felt like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like I remember a specific example. I was crying in my bed, and not even just like this type of crying, but like sobbing, crying. I was sobbing. And I was living with one of my friends at the time, and she told me that it was hours that I was doing that. Hours that I was sobbing, and like I didn't even know. I didn't even know. So one day I was getting my luggage out of a car that this man gave me to borrow. It was a Chrysler Sebring with a very heavy, if you know those cars, the older versions of them, they're like heavy, those cars, like heavy solid steel. And the way that the trunk is set up is like you hold the trunk up and there's like a stick, and the trunk rests on the stick. So I was getting my luggage out, the trunk slammed on my head, and my whole, like my face was like blood, like it felt like I had like blood all over my face. And I went into the house. My friend was helping me. She was cleaning me off and telling me that it wasn't that bad. I was gonna be okay. And so I went down and I went to sleep. I tried to go to sleep. I maybe slept for like an hour. And I woke up feeling really, really hot and nauseous and dizzy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have a concussion. So I woke up my friend and I said, I think I have a concussion. I need to go to the hospital. And she was like, what's a concussion? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. I just felt it. I was like, I'm literally gonna die. And I was like, bro, you need to take me to the hospital. And I felt like I kind of felt like I was slipping away. I was like, you need to take me to the hospital. And she was like, well, I don't have any gas. I was just like, are you kidding me? So I was like, forget this. I started dialing 911, and I was trying to talk to them, but I remember like my voice, it was like going. I couldn't even like speak. And so I give her the phone. Thankfully, she gives the address. Paramedics come. I was terrified out of my mind. I felt like they were treating me like I was just this drugged out person. I called my friend on FaceTime. I told him what was going on. And I told him to tell my mom that I love her. And I was slipping away. I closed my eyes. And when I say I was slipping away, like I couldn't hear anything anymore. I couldn't feel my body. I couldn't feel the pain. I couldn't see anything. It was just bright. And I just was like, okay. And I closed my eyes. When I woke up, I was at the hospital. And I was like, oh, okay. Ooh, I didn't die. Woo! And they ended up stitching me up. I had, right here somewhere. I think you might be able to, I don't know, you can't see it. But anyways, they stitched me up and I had a concussion. By this time, things are just continuously getting out of control. After I got back from the hospital, I was running low on cash. I didn't have no plan. At this point, I had been in Hawaii for, I'd say 3 months. And I was just kind of like, the little opportunity that I was supposed to have turned out to be a bust. Like I kind of knew it was going to happen. And I was like, dang, what do I do, So I went back to what I knew. And what I knew at that time was I'm a cute girl. Not only am I a cute girl, but I'm a smart girl. And I can get a lot of money out of some dumb man. I went out looking for another sugar daddy type of situation. I found this guy on Tinder. He ended up flying me to Oahu. Literally like 2 days after I got out of the hospital. He got me a really nice hotel and I just ended up sleeping for a couple of days because I was just in so much pain from my concussion and I was so weak and just sick, and so I just rested there. A couple days after I was sleeping at the hotel, he came back from Switzerland or wherever he was, and we met up and had dinner, and he basically told me that he has a wife and 2 kids. He wanted me to be his second wife. And I was like, oh no, no. Get me out of here. I ended up going back to the island that I was living on. And I was still feeling desperate, running out of money. And then I came across another man. This man said he would give me a certain amount of money if I had sex with him one time. And I agreed. I didn't end up doing it. I don't really remember why. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to leave. I went to the beach with my friend, feeling defeated, stressed and heavy, and feeling like I didn't want to leave, but I didn't really have a choice. And I was trying to figure out in my head, what do I do? Like, how do I figure this out? She ended up meeting some guy at the beach. They were talking over here. I was over here doing my own thing. Really just crying and mourning that I was going to have to leave. He said, hey, you should come and sleep at our house for 2 nights. My mom's really cool and she would love to have you. I ended up going. The mom really truly was amazing. And the father, their whole family was very sweet and kind. They didn't even know me and they took me in. When I got to their house, I called my mom. I told her where I was and what was going on. And she said, I'll buy you a plane ticket. A couple days later, I left and it was very, very hard to leave. It was so hard to leave. When I got back to my mom's house, I was in a different climate. It was cold. The food tasted different. I felt like a failure. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any dignity or self-worth at this point. I had nothing. I had depression. That's what I had. I had depression. I would just cry. I didn't have any energy. I would just sleep. And then I started to get tormented again by the demons. But this time it was like no other. They would come at night, and I could feel them in the room. I could feel them. Like, it felt like the room was thick with them. I felt like they were like this close to me, and then all around the room. So I was so afraid that I slept with the lights on every single night. And then as time went on, like, I kind of was too afraid to sleep. So as each night went on, I just like wasn't getting sleep. And then time goes on, and like I can't eat. And I just felt like I was dying. I felt like I was dying. And I was like, you know what? If I'm dying, then I might as well just kill myself, because this like dying slow process is too painful for my body and for my heart. I just couldn't handle it anymore. So I wrote a suicide letter to my mom. I never gave it to her, but the fact that I did that, like, I knew that I was serious. The pain was just too unbearable. And so I was talking to my friend that I told you guys about earlier. And I thank God for him, because he really stood in the gap for me. He had been praying for me when I was doing all that new age stuff. When I was just lost, he had been praying for me. And then one day we were on the phone, and I was screaming. You know, I was like, I really took a lot of pain out on him, you know, because I didn't mean to, but I just couldn't, I couldn't function. And he was very patient with me. One day, and I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said that I was like really open-minded, and he didn't understand why I would try this and that, but I would not give the Lord a chance. With everything that I had been through, I didn't even remember that there was a time that I ever believed even this much in Jesus. I didn't even remember that until, you know, more down the line as the Lord showed me. That's how messed up I was. My mind was so gone. It's the worst, like, when your mind is gone, like, you can't do anything. You can't eat, you can't sleep, you can't work, you can't help it, you can't do anything. Oh my gosh. But my mind was gone, you guys. My mind was gone. And so he said to give the Lord a try. And I don't remember what he said, but he like prayed something, like he was praying, and I repeated after him. And it was something along the lines of like, you know, calling on the Lord, and like, you know, I don't know, something like this. And he came and I didn't see him or anything like that, but I knew he came, because that pain that I had from not being able to eat or sleep, like that physical burden, I couldn't feel it anymore. I just felt like, I don't know, I just knew he was there. And so you know, because of that, I just put my faith in him like that. That was October 15th, 2018. Literally that day, I went all in. My friend, he sent me a sermon, and I was like, I opened it, And before I even started it, you know how on the right on YouTube it says like up next? The video that was up next, it said from New Age to Jesus. And I watched it, and the things that happened to this person were the same things that happened to me. And I watched hundreds of those testimonies. Everything that everybody was saying was so similar. Like, we all did these things that opened doorways for demons to come in and like live in us and create, like, wreak havoc on our lives. That's what those things do. They open doors in the spiritual realm for demons to come. It is not a joke. I went head first, let me tell you, into reading the Bible, watching sermons, watching videos about the Lord and what he's doing in everybody's lives. I went all in. I literally did nothing else for, I don't know, very long time. The same amount of focus and attention I put on when I was studying the New Age, I put that same focus and attention on studying the Lord and who he is. I'm not the same. What the Lord has done for me, he saved my life. I could have died. I'm positive of it. He cleaned me up. He got rid of my addictions. He got rid of my pride. He helps me every day. I need him every day. I need him every single day. And I'm not saying I'm perfect now. I'm never going to be perfect. The only one that is perfect is Jesus. He's given me peace. He's given me stability. He's given me a purpose and a hope and a future. I can't sit here and list all the things that he's done for me, because he's done that much for me. And I know that he's just going to keep doing more because he loves me. But I tell you this, even if he did nothing for me, nothing, but give me eternal life because he died for my sins, that's enough. That's enough. He brought me back to Hawaii. He's done so much. Like, I can't even sit here and like tell you. He is someone that you can trust and someone that you can give your life to. For real. You can trust him. And you can follow him. He's a gentleman. I think in Revelation 3:20, it says something about like he's like standing outside of the door waiting for you. And if you invite him in, he'll come and like dine with you. That's what he did with me, you know. And I'm confident that he'll do it with you if you just trust in him. If you call upon the name of the Lord, you will be saved. And he will change you. Like, what? He will change you, bro. If you want that, I just want to pray for you right now. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to do anything. Just listen and have an open heart and an open mind. Lord, I thank you for your Holy Spirit, who is the ultimate comforter and teacher right now. I thank you that these are not my words, but yours, that you are just taking control. Lord, I just thank you. I thank you for everything that you've done in my life. I thank you for everything that you did for all of us. And I just ask that you help this person right now that's watching this video, that feels lost, confused, like they're living in darkness and in sin, that they feel like they're in bondage. I just ask that you just like lift them up, Lord. Penetrate their hearts. Show them Show them that they can trust you. In Jesus' name, amen. He's waiting for you. He's not going to barge in. He's not going to kick the door in and be like, yo, you better worship me and you better. It is an honor and a privilege, let me tell you, to worship him, to love him, to be loved by him. It really is. Pray. Pray with genuine heart. Ask him. Ask him to reveal himself to you and call upon his name. You'll be saved. He'll give you a new heart and change you forever. So I thank you for listening to my video. Thank you for listening to my testimony. Thank you for praying for me. Thank you for, I don't know, I'm happy that I'm just happy. So, all right. Take care.